Sonia and I'm back with a new lesson for you today. So what are we going to talk about today, guys? We are going to talk about expressions with one. Now the word one, it's so common. You know, one house, one dress, one car. We use it to express quantity very often. But have you ever thought of this? The word one is so versatile, it can be used in various ways. And that's why we're going to discuss about different phrases or expressions that we can use with the word one today. Alright, so let's have a look. The very first one I have for you is one of these days. Okay, now how could you use this sentence or this phrase? You could use one of these days followed by going, okay, plus an infinitive. Now what's an infinitive? An infinitive is the word to plus any verb, any action word. So for someone like me, okay, I tend to mess around the desktop at my workstation a lot. My files, folders are all over the desktop and it looks really messed up, okay. When I want to look for a file, I can't really look for one. It's very difficult. So what I plan to do one of these days is, one of these days I'm going to clean or clear the clutter on the desktop, okay. So over here, if you notice, this is an action or a plan that I'm going to do in some days. After the word going, I've used the word to, followed by a verb which is clear or clean. If, you know, for example, you want to meet a relative or a friend, you could say, one of these days I'm going to meet one of my friends or one of my relatives. So always remember, when you use this phrase, one of these days, to talk about something that you're going to do, you will use the word going and then an infinitive, which is to, followed by any simple verb. The next one is one by one, okay. Now in order for me to clear that clutter on my desktop, I need to check the files one by one, which means one after the other. Okay, let me write that down. So I could make a sentence like, when I get some time during my break today, I'm going to check each file on my desktop one by one, which means one after the other individually. The next phrase is not very common but very effective. It says, I'm not one to complain, but. Now when would you use something like this? Now if you're someone who's not very cribby, who does not complain a lot, who's quite satisfied and happy with everything, okay? However, a person like this would also get irritated or want to complain about something, I'm sure at least once. So imagine this, okay? If you have a phone, all right, and the network on that phone most of the times is bad. Your phone just doesn't work when you want it to. And obviously that's something important. Now, if you finally decide that you've decided that you've had it, you would probably walk up to your network, you know, the store of your network, and you would tell them, well, hey, I'm not one to complain, but your service just doesn't work in my area, okay? Here you're trying to say that your complaint is really serious. It's a serious complaint. So in order to show that you're really dissatisfied, you could use a phrase like this saying, I'm not one to complain, but your network just does not work. The next one says, a one-off payment. Now what's a one-off payment? A one-off payment is simply a payment that you make just once, okay? You will hear this particular phrase used a lot by sales agents or customer service agents, you know, over the phone. Someone would tell you like, well, you need to make just a one-off payment in order to process this sale, okay? Especially if you are a customer service agent also, you could use a sentence like this on your calls when you're speaking to your customers. A one-off payment is a payment you make just once. There are no installments, just a one-off payment. The next one is A one-hit wonder, okay? Now what's a one-hit wonder? This is a phrase, first of all, that you would hear a lot of radio jockeys, presenters, and such people use. A one-hit wonder is basically either a pop singer, a solo singer, or a pop group, or any artist in that sense who makes music, who just made one extremely famous song. Everyone heard this song, everyone loved it. People were hoping for some more songs from such group or such a singer, but that never happened. That particular artist or that group of artists just disappeared off the scene completely. When you want to describe a group or an artist like that, you could say, well, hey, you know what, I used to really like that group, but they turned out to be a one-hit wonder. They never came back. They never made another song. That's how you can use this particular phrase. The next one is also very famous. It says, the one and only. Now, the one and only could mean a person, an artist, who is very unique, special, very famous. Now, if you're someone who watches a lot of TV, you would hear many hosts or presenters use the one and only whenever they want to introduce an artist or introduce a person to an audience or to a group. In order to create that curiosity in the audience to know who is going to come up on stage, they would make a sentence like, well, hey, let's welcome the one and only, and mention that person's name. And it sounds really good too. The next phrase is a one-track mind, okay? Now, when would I use a phrase like this, a one-track mind? This is when I want to talk about someone who only thinks in a particular way, who can't change the way they think, or they only think about one particular thing. For example, if you know someone who only thinks about sports, who's only interested in sports and nothing else, okay? So you could say that, well, hey, Peter, he has a one-track mind. He only thinks about sports and nothing else, okay? So one-track mind is something where you only think of one thing or of one topic and nothing else. That's a one-track mind. It's quite a catchy phrase, so you can use this one. The next one says, one way of putting it. Now, before I explain this to you, remember that this phrase needs to be used very carefully, okay, because it can sound a little rude. So make sure that your tone is soft, is pleasant, firm, but not rude, okay. So imagine this. If you are, a manager, okay, and you're in a board meeting, and there is a decision that's taken by everyone which you don't really agree with for whatever reasons, okay. However, you need to say that you're agreeing with this decision, all right. So when you're putting across your point, you could say, well, hey, that's one way of putting it. However, I think that this could have been done differently. So here, you're letting the person know that you don't really agree, with what they've decided, but you're just going ahead with it for the sake of it. But remember, you need to make sure your tone is really firm and pleasant when you're making this particular sentence using the phrase like this. So basically it means to disagree with something. And finally, we have the phrase which says, it's one thing to say it, okay? Now, what does this mean? You would use this phrase, guys, when you want to talk about something which is extremely easy to say or extremely easy to talk about, but very difficult to do. For example, if someone's looking to quit a bad habit, all right, it's very easy to tell that person, you need to quit smoking or you need to quit this. It's easy to do that, but it's extremely difficult for the person to actually do it, right? So if you want to make a sentence using this phrase, you could say, well, it's one thing to say that, I need to quit smoking, but it's extremely difficult to do it, all right? So let me write down the meaning for you. Something that's difficult, something that's easy to say, or that's easy to talk about, but difficult to do. There are many things like this, like smoking or losing weight for some of us. So that's when you could use a phrase like this. So here we have 9 phrases using the word one. All of them mean different things. They can be used in different sentences. Alright? So I hope that you guys go through these phrases, understand them and use them in your day-to-day conversation. Well, this brings me to the end of the lesson. I hope that you enjoyed watching. Alright? I'll be back soon with a new lesson. Till then, take care of yourself. Bye-bye.